Hey guys, and welcome to Quality Shot. I'm really excited to be joined all the way from Australia by Jason Moloney, two-time bantamweight world title challenger. How you doing, mate?
I'm going great, mate. Thanks for coming on for the chat. Yeah, good to speak to the people in the UK.
Yeah. Before we start and go into the nitty-gritty, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the UK fans who maybe are not as familiar with yourself and maybe your brother as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Jason Moloney. I've got a twin brother, Andrew Moloney, and we're both professional boxers. I'm a bantamweight. My brother's a super flyweight. We've both had 22 professional fights, I think. 21 wins. 21 wins, 2 losses for myself, so 23. Um, I'm a two-time world title challenger. My most recent fight, I just lost to Inoue, one of the pound for pound best in the sport. But yeah, hopefully this is the year that both myself and my brother will become world champion. We love the sport, love what you guys are doing over there in the UK, and follow and support a lot of your fighters. So yeah, just I'm a real boxing fan, and yeah, just love the sport and want to see it do well, and I want to be the best that I can be.
Yeah, sorry to put you on the spot there. I realised I just put you on the spot to introduce yourself, but I think you've done a very good job introducing yourself. Probably better than I did anyway. So we quickly discussed about COVID very briefly before coming onto the call, and you were saying in Australia it seems to be a little bit, well, it seems to be quite a bit better there in terms of cases, but as you said, it depends on state to state. How's it kind of been as a boxer in Australia? Has it been pretty much normal where you are in New South Wales then, in terms of training, etc.?
In terms of training, I've been fortunate because even when we were in proper lockdown, when all the gyms shut and everything, I've just got a private gym which is on my coach's property, and I got a key to the gym. And sort of even when the lockdowns were happening, myself and my brother would be the only ones in there, so we're pretty safe to get in there and keep working, which was great, for us because a lot of the boxes here in Australia, obviously with the lockdowns and no events happening, a lot of fighters here in Australia didn't fight at all last year. Um, Whereas myself and Andrew were very fortunate being signed to TopRank. Um, yeah, we got over there straight away. TopRank were the first promotional team to kickstart boxing after the whole pandemic started. And back in June, myself and Andrew went over there and were a part of basically the reopening of boxing, and I had a great win over there against the tough Mexican Leonardo Baez, and after that win, earned myself the opportunity to face Naoya Inoue, and obviously went over there again to America and fought him on October the 31st. So I, despite everything going on in the world, actually had a very, very good year uh, in terms of my career. Some opportunities, headlining 2 shows at the MGM Grand, which is obviously just a dream come true for any fighter. So yeah, I mean, even though it was a dreadful year for most people in the world, I actually had a pretty good year and no complaints here. Obviously, it would have been great to finish the year beating the Nui and being the unified bantamweight champion, but it wasn't to be, and I'll learn from that fight and just come back better and stronger this year.
Yeah, you make a really good point that some fighters didn't even get out in 2020. I know even some here in the UK haven't. And the fact that you got out twice, I thought was really good. And being with Top Rank is quite interesting because, you're based in Australia, but the last 2 fights you've had were in the US. So
Yeah.
fighting, as you mentioned, in those 2 big Top Rank shows in the US in 2020, what was it like fighting in front of no crowd? Was it a bit strange? A little bit, not, I don't want to say like a spa, but well, actually, I will say, was it a little bit like a spa with no crowd there, or was it, you're just one track mind and you're fighting someone and you kind of don't normally hear the sound around you anyway?
Um, a bit of both. I heard people before my fight say that who had experienced it and said, "Oh, it just felt like a sparring session," which for me it didn't. For me, it still felt like a massive occasion. I still walked out to the ring, and even though there was no crowd cheering, I still, had the goosebumps and the nerves, and I knew that this was a fight, and it still felt like fight night. I do really miss the crowd. I can't wait to fight again in front of a sold out arena or stadium. Definitely miss that atmosphere. But for me, it didn't feel that weird. Once you get in the ring and you got the opponent in front of you and you're listening to your corner, and it still felt like I'm in a fight. So it didn't. Yeah, it still felt like a big occasion. It was still an amazing experience. But if I could have fought Inoue or could have fought at either of those fights at the MGM Grand with a sold out crowd, that would have just been absolutely amazing. And it's disappointing that there was no one there to witness that fight apart from maybe 50 people. But if that had been at a sold out crowd, and I could have had a lot of my friends and family who travel over from Australia to watch me and support me, well, that would have been just an absolute dream come true. But it wasn't to be. You just got to take the good with the bad. I still got the opportunity to fight one of the best fighters in the world and fight for the unified championship of the world, which is still amazing. And I'm still grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, that takes me quite nicely actually onto what I was going to ask you about. So Naoya Inoue, as you said, he is, I think, in most people's estimations, in the top 3 kind of pound for pound fighters in the world, I think, from what I've seen and heard from fighters and pundits, etc. After sharing a ring with him, how high do you rate him? Was he a lot better than you thought he was? Or was he about how you thought he was, or actually he wasn't as good as maybe you first thought he was going into the ring? Just kind of wanted to get your opinion on it, because obviously you shared the ring with him, so you have that first-hand experience.
Nah, he's exceptional. As good as I thought he was, going into the fight, I didn't take the fight because I thought he was overrated or he was, going to be an easy win. I wanted to get in there and test myself against the absolute best. And, it's my goal to be the best bantamweight in the world. So for that to happen, I have to beat guys like Inoue. And yeah, I knew going in there he was an exceptional fighter. I've followed Inoue for a number of years and seen him come through the weights and just, demolish guys. And I knew how good he was, and getting in there and fighting him, he was, every bit as good as I expected. His speed and explosiveness was perhaps slightly better than I expected. He's, both the shots that he hurt me with in that fight, I just didn't see him coming, which obviously, the shots you don't see are the ones that hurt you the most. So, he's an exceptional fighter. I still got up the next morning with a bit of a headache and said to my brother and my coach, geez, I'd love to fight him again. I still, just the fighter in me and the competitive spirit, I still would like to think that on my night I could beat him. But I had the opportunity, and on that night he was too good for me. But, that as a fighter, all I want to do is, fight the absolute best and test myself and see how good I could be. So there's absolutely no regrets. I'm proud that I did step up and take the opportunity when most fighters in the division are avoiding Inoue at the moment. So there's no regrets. Now I just want to get myself back into the position where I can fight for another world title as soon as possible.
Yeah, makes 100% sense. In terms of, just to finish up on Inoue, does his power kind of does he have the sort of power that transcends weight divisions? Because a lot of people are saying that, and you've obviously, you felt him, you felt that power. So what do you think of that in terms of rating his power? Because you said his explosive and speed was a lot better than, well, it was better than you thought it was. What about his power in there?
Yeah, great power. He did hit me with a couple of shots earlier in the fight. Perhaps not as flush, and I sort of took him and thought, this is nothing to really be too scared of. But as I said, both the shots that hurt me, I just didn't see them. And when you don't see a shot, any fighter will know, then they're the ones that really hurt you and do the damage, because you don't brace yourself or expect it. So the shock value really knocks you around. So the first left hook that dropped me, it didn't overly hurt me. I was up before sort of the count of one, and I wasn't overly buzzed, but just not seeing the shot obviously has a big impact. And then the last right hand, which ended the fight, well, that's as good a shot as you're ever going to get hit by, and definitely had a lot on that. So he definitely does have great power, and I think he can continue to go through the weight divisions. He's not a massive guy in terms of his actual build, so there will be, a ceiling on how far he can go. Featherweight maybe would be tops at the moment, I would guess, but you don't know. It'll obviously take time for him to sort of fill out into the next division, but yeah, he can continue climbing the divisions, I think, and there's no doubt he'll go down as a future Hall of Famer and do some massive things in his career. So I'm grateful to have shared the ring with him.
Yeah. So you're part of that bantamweight WBSS group. I think it was the second edition of the WBSS. Did you enjoy the fact that, obviously you didn't get as far as you'd like to have gone, but in terms of the actual format and the tournament, did you like that, you had a tournament date, and then if you won that, then okay, this is the time I'm going to fight against X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I love the Super Series. I think it was exceptional and still is, and I hope it continues to go on. And they do another couple of competitions and a few different new weight divisions this year, because even watching the first series as a fan, just loved what it was about, and the best fight in the best, and no one being able to avoid fights or any problems making the big fights happen, because everyone was in the tournament. Once you win, this person wins, that's who you fight in next, and there's no negotiations needed. And the people, the great fights that you want to see get made that unfortunately don't get made, well, this forces those big fights to happen. So I absolutely loved it, and as you said, even though I didn't go as far in the tournament as I would have liked, I loved every second of being a part of that. And if it was another Super Series that happened again, I'd throw my hand up to go in it again for sure. That's all I'm all about. I want to be part of the big fights and fighting the best in the division. So yeah, I love every second of it, and I hope it continues. It's a really great thing that they're doing, bringing the best fights possible to the sport, and having those big fights and these big tournaments and eyes watching is only doing great things for the sport.
Yeah, I think it's a great tournament. As you said, the best fights and the best, that's what everyone wants to see. And just like you said, you want to test yourself against the best. And that's why I think as fans, you want to hear fighters saying that, they don't want to dodge anyone. They just want to fight the best that they can and test themselves. And, sometimes, to be fair, the best fighters, 99% of the best fighters ever have all taken a loss or two at least. So, I think that just shows that that's because they have been willing to test themselves at different times in their career. So you
100%.
mentioned that obviously you didn't get as far as you wanted to have gone. You faced Emmanuel Rodriguez, that IBF champ at the time. That was your only other loss in a very close split decision. It was a very entertaining fight. Were you a little bit disappointed that it didn't swing your way, or were you thinking it could kind of go either way, considering it was obviously a split decision?
Yeah, at the end of the fight, just because I finished so strong, I did feel as though maybe I'd just done enough. I knew that Rodriguez probably was just nipping the first few rounds of the fight, and I didn't have a great sort of first half or first 4 or 5 rounds. But then I sort of changed tactics and really put the pressure on him, and I was breaking him down. And if it had been an old school 15 rounder, I think I would have stopped him, because I could tell that I was really getting on top of him. But unfortunately, I guess I left it too late. It was a split decision, and 115, 113 to him by 2 of the judges, so as close as you can get. And it was very, very disappointing, because it was obviously my first loss and my first chance at fighting for a world title. So it was very disappointing, but it was a great experience, and it showed me that I am good enough to match it with the absolute best in the division. Rodriguez was a great fighter, and I learnt a lot from that. And I think if I was to fight him again, that I'd definitely beat him, and hopefully it's a fight that can happen in the future. But yeah, obviously it didn't go my way, but that loss didn't worry me too much, in the sense that I'm not, like you said about great fighters that have taken losses. I'm not one of those guys who's all about protecting his record, and that 0, as great as it is, it doesn't mean all that much to me. I just want to fight the best and be the best that I can be. And I'm still confident that I will achieve my dream of becoming world champion. And that loss, perhaps, in the long run, was a bit of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, well said. Learning fight, I guess, isn't it? You learn from each
Yeah,
fight, and
I
then
learned a lot from that.
yeah, exactly. So in terms of your plans for 2021, so you mentioned obviously you want to become world champion at some point, but in terms of mapping out your 2021, do you have kind of a set route in your mind that this is what I want to do? This is maybe the route I want to go down in terms of governing bodies, or even fights that you have in mind, like specific fights, or fighters that you have in mind that you're thinking, this is who I want next. What's in your head? What are you thinking about in terms of 2021?
Well, I'll fight anyone in the division, and I'll do whatever it takes to get my opportunity. Bob Arum asked me what my preference would be, and I said I want to fight Casemiro or Ubali, and fight for another world title as soon as possible. So if either of those fights can be made, that would be amazing, and I'd absolutely jump at both of those fights, and confident that I can beat both of those guys. If those fights can't be made, well, I just want to fight the best that's available, and earn myself a shot at the world title as soon as possible. So anyone in the top 10, top 5, or the champions, that's who I want to fight. And yeah, anyone and anywhere, and yeah, I'm ready to go.
Very refreshing attitude to hear, for sure. So in terms of the number of times you want to get out, do you have a set number? Is it 2 times, 3 times? How often are you looking to get out?
Yeah, I really like to be active. I'd like to fight 3 to 4 times a year, if possible. So yeah, I'd like to get out as soon as possible and kickstart the year, and then get out as much as possible. As long as there's no injuries and you're pulling up from each fight, okay. I like to get straight back in the gym and straight back to work and keep improving. It's only a short career, and I want to make the absolute most of it.
Yeah. So you fought in the US at the MGM Grand, as you said, in the last 2 fights. Considering though that COVID is pretty rife across the US, from what I know, especially kind of around some of the venues that I think fights would potentially happen in the US, and in Australia at the moment, as you said, in certain parts it's not too bad at all in relation to other countries, especially the US. Are you looking potentially to have a homecoming fight in Australia, considering that there's crowds available as well? Are you looking at that as a potential?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I love fighting over in America, but as you said, at the moment, the COVID situation here is quite good. And, we've got back to stadium fights. And at the end of last year, we had a fight, Tim Zoo's fight. There was over 30,000 people there. So, yeah, we're back to having good crowds, which we're very fortunate to be able to do. So my brother, Andrew, is actually looking to have his trilogy fight against Joshua Franco, and we're hoping to do that fight in Australia. So my manager, Tony Tolge, is working on that at the moment, and we've been speaking to different state governments and things to see where we can put the fight on and what venue. So that's all in the works at the moment, and we're hoping that fight will happen around April or May in Australia. So yeah, if that happens, then I'll definitely fight on that show. And yeah, it'd be great to have another fight in front of the home crowd, and in front of a crowd as well, which would be great to get that atmosphere back and have the fans in attendance, which would be great.
Yeah, nice little homecoming fight for you and your brother as well. So hopefully in 2 different shows and 2 big fights. Looking forward to seeing those in 2021. I think the time difference, as we've said, might be a little bit different, but I'm sure I'll catch it anyway. I'll wake up early and watch it, or wake up late even, whatever it might be. In terms of your future plans, so say for example, theoretically, I don't want to look too much into the future because I know your immediate focus is on becoming world champion at bantamweight. But are you looking to potentially, if you were to win a world title at bantamweight in the future, at some point move to super bantamweight?
I actually started my career at super bantamweight, and had up my first 16 fights at super bantamweight. but then I started training with my new coach, and he had a look at things and how I was doing, making the weight and my diet and things like that, and just took a bit more of a professional approach and found that I could make bantamweight, I wouldn't say easily, but comfortably. Making weight for any fighter is never easy, but with the right discipline and the right diet, I can make bantamweight fairly comfortably. So I think I'll stay at bantamweight for quite a while. I'd like to win a world title here, eventually unify the division and become undisputed. That would be the absolute dream. And I'm willing to stay at bantamweight for as long, for that amount of time, for as long as that takes. So I think I've definitely got a few more years here at 118. But if the right opportunity presents itself at super bantamweight, then yeah, I'll go up there and fight it at super bantamweight as well. But at the moment, yeah, the focus is really just on becoming the best bantamweight in the world.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Interesting that you're saying that obviously your priority is at bantamweight, and when you, I guess, looked at it as with a coach or nutritionist, that you saw that you can potentially, by tweaking things, you could drop down division. It's funny because some fighters, they start off, as you said, at a slightly higher weight, especially if they can't the amateurs, and then they realize, oh, actually, if I tweak a few things, I probably can make the division below. What's it like being promoted? Exactly right. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say that's exactly right. So I was fighting at 56 in the amateurs. So just thought naturally when I turned pro, I would go to 55.3 super bantamweight. But just with the extra time after the weighing, not like the amateurs where you're weighing on the same day. You've got 24 hours to replenish and refuel. So yeah, just a few little tweaks and I can get down to 53.5. And obviously, as a fighter, you want to fight at the division where you think you've got an advantage or you're at your strongest. So for me, that's bantamweight at the moment, and I think I can stay there for perhaps my whole career, but we'll wait and see.
Okay. What's it like being promoted by TopRank? As someone who obviously grew up in Australia, etc., TopRank is such a huge promotional outfit, and having a legend like Bob Arum promoting you, someone who's promoted the likes of obviously Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather, etc. What's, from your point of view, what's it like, first of all, being a TopRank fighter, and what's it like, I guess, dealing with someone like Bob Arum, etc., and being in that type of presence of someone who they've basically been there and done it all?
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, mate. I can't speak highly enough of TopRank and the way that they've looked after us and the opportunities they've given us. As a fighter from Australia, came up fighting, in small hall shows and, selling the tickets and doing the hard part of the sport to get my record up and get in the world rankings and try and sort of have something to lure a big promoter like TopRank in to want to take me on. And then when TopRank were interested in signing both me and my brother, we were just absolutely over the moon. They're the biggest and best promotional company in the world in my eyes. And when we signed with them, it was an absolute dream come true. But I will say I did have some doubts that, these guys have had all these great fighters, like the names you mentioned of Mayweather, De La Hoya, all those guys. And you think, these two guys from Australia, are they actually going to sort of care about you or look after you? But that thought was put to ease straight away. Everyone in the company just has treated us so well, and the opportunities that they've given us last year, were just amazing. Couldn't be more thankful for those opportunities. And yeah, I can't speak high enough of everyone in the TopRank team. They're just tremendous people. They've looked after us so well. And yeah, if there's any fighter out there that was thinking who should I sign with, I'd definitely tell them to steer them towards TopRank. They've been exceptional, and I'm very grateful to be part of their team.
Great pitch for TopRank. It's almost like TopRank or Bob Arum told you to say that when you came on. No,
nah. Well, like I said earlier, if I wasn't signed to TopRank, I wouldn't have fought last year at all, because towards the end of the year we had a few fights, a few events in Australia, but our borders are shut, so there was no international opponents coming in. And for me in Australia, there's no bantamweights for me to fight. You know, there's maybe 3 or 4 bantamweights in the whole country, but they're only young guys that are starting out that have maybe had 5, 6, 7 fights. You know, they're not at that level where it's going to actually benefit me in any way fighting these guys, and I don't think any of them would take the fight. So I wouldn't have fought at all in 2020 if it wasn't for Top Rank. And instead of sitting on the sidelines and wasting a year of my career, I had 2 of the biggest fights of my career and the opportunity to become the unified bantamweight champion of the world. So it's a no-brainer that Top Rank have been an absolute blessing for me to be signed with, and I'm looking forward to a big future ahead.
Very well said. So you said to me at the start of this interview when you introduced yourself that you're a bit of a boxing nut, and you know, I'm assuming you're watching a lot of boxing as well, not just your weight divisions but others. It's funny because I asked some fighters about you know, have you seen this fight, etc., and they say to me, no, you know, I don't really watch boxing. They say I box, but I'm not really interested in watching it, which I find quite funny because, you know, obviously I'm not a professional sportsman, but the sports that I play, you know, I'll watch as well, if that makes sense. And so it seems quite funny to me. But as someone who, yeah, exactly, as someone who does watch the sport, I wanted to get your thought on a couple of fights that have just happened or ones that might in the future happen and get your opinion on it. So first of all, did you watch Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think?
Great fight. Well, I thought it was a great fight, firstly, but yeah, I was really excited to see that fight, to see, you know, how good Ryan Garcia was. I knew that Campbell would obviously test him because he's, you know, such a great fighter and being in there with the very best. So, you know, it was a great fight to show you what Garcia was really made of. You know, that he was going to be asked questions, which he was when he was dropped pretty hard in the second round, but he showed that he's the real deal, and, you know, got back to his feet and ended up stopping Campbell in the 7th, which was an incredible effort. So it certainly shows that it's not all hype and, you know, social media with Garcia. He is the real deal, and he's part of, you know, a great division in lightweight at the moment, which is so exciting with so many great fighters and all young fighters too. And yeah, it's going to be a very exciting year if all those guys in the lightweight division do fight each other. You know, the Garcias, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Gervonta Davis. You know, if all those guys fight each other, well, as a fan, we're in for an absolute treat this year, and I hope it happens.
Yeah, I think as a UK, you know, well, someone who's based in the UK, I obviously was rooting for Luke Campbell. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And he, for anyone who watching who doesn't and isn't particularly familiar with him, you know, Olympic gold medalist and has fought for a world title. I think it's 2 or 3 times actually, and you know, has fought some of the very best. Fought Lomachenko recently as well, and you know, when I saw him drop Ryan Garcia, I was thinking, oh, okay, this could be interesting. And then Ryan Garcia got up and fair play to him, it's almost like it didn't affect him at all. And he was like, oh, this is great. I just got dropped. This is a new experience. And after, he is like a little boy almost. You know, you can tell he does act his age, which is not a bad thing. It's just you know, he came out and goes, you know, it's crazy that I got dropped, but, you know, it's great. And I was like, what? But it's funny because some people say to me, you know, boxers, or boxers themselves have said, you know, sometimes they'll say, to be a boxer, you have to have a little bit of a screw loose to really enjoy it, because a normal person, you know, wouldn't enjoy that getting hit in the face. But he obviously has that little bit of. It's funny because they drew parallels between him and De La Hoya. Because when De La Hoya first got dropped, he had a similar thing where he kind of just really enjoyed it, got up again, and went on. So you mentioned the lightweight division is really packed at the moment. So I'm gonna put you on the spot. From 1 to 5, if you had to rank them, 1 being the best fighter around at the moment, how would you rate? So Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, Gervonta Davis, and I won't forget Lomachenko as well, because I think he's still staying there at lightweight.
Oh, all right, on the spot. After seeing Teofimo live, I was there when he fought Loma, and after seeing him live, I'll have him at number 1. So Teofimo number 1. I'd probably still put Loma number 2. People are writing him off because he lost, but I still think he probably beats the other guys in that mix, really. I mean, they're all great fights, and Loma probably is a little too small. I think he does his best work at 130, but I still think Loma probably beats, Haney, Garcia, and Tank. So I'll put Loma number 2, then I'll put Tank Davis at number 3, and then I'll go Haney and Garcia,
Ooh,
4
okay.
and 5.
Interesting.
They're all exceptional fighters. So me having Garcia at 5 isn't discrediting what he's done. He's an exceptional fighter, and so is Haney for that matter. But that's how good that division is. So exciting that someone with that much talent can be, your number 5 in the division. So obviously that can all change this year, and I hope all those guys fight each other. There's some, terrific matchups there, and even though I've put, Garcia at number 5 and Tank at 3, I still think that's a 50-50 fight, because as explosive and strong as Tank is, I think Garcia's style is also a tricky style for Tank to fight. So, styles make fights, and any 5 of those guys fighting each other is it's a flip of the coin, really. And that's what the sport needs, those 50-50 fights that gets people talking and watching. So that lightweight division at the moment is just so exciting, and can't wait to see what ends up happening this year.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you talked about your order, because some people, everyone's got different opinions. Some people say, Jonte Davis has only had 1 fight at lightweights. How can you put him so high? But then obviously he's performed so well in the lower divisions, and he's a multi-division world champion. And then Devin Haney's really well schooled, and he's been an amateur a pro since he was 15, no fighting in Mexico. And then obviously you've got Lomachenko, as you said, who we all know about. And Teofimo Lopez, your stablemate, has been doing a lot of media actually in the UK, especially talking about potential fights. And I think, hopefully, fingers crossed, we will see some of these fights this year. I think they will definitely happen. We'll see. Teofimo Lopez might actually come to Australia to fight George Kambosos for his mandatory. So you might be able to go and see him in Australia. Otherwise, I think maybe Devin Haney. But either way, they're big fights. So
yeah, exactly. So hopefully that does happen. Obviously, it's George Kambosos is his mandatory at the moment, and they're talking about bringing him out to Australia. And yeah, mate, that would be absolutely amazing for boxing in Australia, and to have a big fight like that. And I might be on the undercard of that and part of the show, and would love to see him out here. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Obviously, there's some great fights for Lopez in that division, but I guess you got to take care of your mandatories at some stage.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're looking at some fighters like Casemiro, for example. There were talks, and I think it's still floating about Inoue versus Casemiro. If that fight was to happen, are you backing Inoue then to beat him?
Yeah.
I think he's got too much for him.
Yeah, and I think, Inoue is a step above the rest of the champions in the division at the moment. And, I was a mandatory for the WBO. I was number 1, and I could have just waited around, and obviously Casemiro would have had to fight me at some stage because I was the mandatory. So I could have waited around, and, in my eyes, the Casemiro fight is an easier fight and a much easier opportunity for me to become world champion. But I'm not about the easy route. The Inoue fight came up, and I jumped at it and took it with both hands and said, bring it on. Obviously, it's a harder fight, but, as I said, I'm here to test myself and be the best I can be. And I knew that as much as it was a riskier fight, there was a bigger reward as well. So, there's no regrets there. But I think, me losing to Inoue isn't, obviously it was heartbreaking, and I'm still very disappointed in the fight and the outcome, but I still believe that I can beat any of the other champions in the division. So I'm still positive, and I still, just want to get myself another opportunity to get back at either of the, Ubali, Casemiro, any of the other guys, and I'm very confident that I can beat them.
That's fair enough. It's an interesting outlook. I think probably tend to agree with you, to be fair. The last kind of potential fight I want to discuss, so it's a huge fight here in the UK. But I wanted to get your opinion on, first of all, how big is it potentially in Australia in terms of reach and interest, and who would you have winning? So it's the heavyweights, AJ and Fury. So you're, again, one of your stablemates in provincial stablemates in Fury. So, but you know, you can be impartial as well. give me your actual
I'll
thoughts.
tell you
But
what I think.
yeah. But first of all, how big is that in Australia? Because I know here in the UK it's huge, right? It's the biggest thing, to be honest. If it does happen, which hopefully it does, it'll be the biggest event, kind of UK wise, since England winning the World Cup, the football soccer World Cup here in 1966. But in Australia, what's the interest like around that fight and the kind of intrigue around it?
Yeah, everyone is all about that fight. As I said earlier, unfortunately, boxing in Australia is not that big of a sport. You know, we don't get the media attention, or it's not on the TV as much, and it doesn't have the following like you guys do in the UK, which is very unfortunate, and something that I am passionate about changing. I really want to help the sport grow in Australia and really try and get people watching and talking about boxing. But for the guys, for everyone in the country who does support boxing, that absolutely can't wait for that fight. I'm a big fan of both guys. I love AJ, love the Gypsy King. But who is going to win? I think Fury wins that fight pretty comfortably. I think he's easily the best heavyweight in the world, and I don't see any of the current heavyweights beating him. Love the Gypsy King, what he does in and outside the ring. He's just great for the sport. And I think he wins the fight pretty comfortably. And I hope it happens in the UK, because I know there's talks about it happening in Saudi Arabia and different countries that are going to throw up big money. But for that fight to happen in the UK in a massive stadium and hopefully in front of a crowd, which I'm sure it will be. I don't think they can put that fight on without a crowd. The atmosphere there would be absolutely phenomenal. And if it does happen, I'd love to be there. I've always, wanted to get over to the UK and would love to fight in the UK at some stage in my career. And I think that would, if there's one fight you'd want to be at the moment, then that's the one. So if possible, I'd love to be there and watch. And I'm confident that the Gypsy King will get the job done.
Ah, very interesting insight. I think when he said about it being in the UK, I think realistically, from what the sounds that are being made here by kind of Eddie Hearn and even Bob Arum as well, promoter, and I think realistically, if the first fight does happen this year, which hopefully it does, and it is next, then I think it will happen in the Middle East most likely, or maybe somewhere like Singapore is pretty random. That's come up, but I think they've obviously got some money there. But then hopefully the second fight, which is a 2-fight deal, hopefully the second fight will be here in the UK at Wembley, 95,000, which would be amazing. And I'll be very lucky to get a ticket, but hopefully, who knows, can strangle my way into the stadium. But I mean, I think it's got to a point here because AJ and Fury really they've been talking about fighting for quite a few years, to be honest with you. Because even when AJ was coming up and Fury had just been Klitschko, there was a lot of talk about it, and obviously, he was out of the sport for a year or so, and 2 years actually. But so there's always been that fever around for that fight, and so I think now is the optimum time to really put it on. So hopefully they do, because if it doesn't happen this year, I think people will, and they're already thinking, being skeptical and saying, "Oh no, it might not happen." And you can tell the UK fans here are a lot more opinionated than in the US, for sure.
And I get the business aspect of it, and that these Saudi Arabia and the likes of these guys, they're going to throw up big money, so they probably are going to get the fight. But as a fan's perspective, and I just think that you guys will be robbed of the best fight, and the atmosphere there would just be so good. So as a selfish fan's point of view, I'd love for it to happen in the UK, but I do get that it probably won't happen.
Yeah. So in terms of fighters in Australia, even, so on the top of my head, Tim Tszyu you mentioned, Jeff Horn, although I don't know, he's towards the back end of his career, and also Ebony Bridges as well as a women's fighter, because she was due to come and fight here in the UK against a UK fighter, Rachel Ball, actually. But got injured in the end. Are there any other Australian fighters that we here in the UK should be looking out for? Obviously yourself and your brother, but apart from that, who should we be looking out for?
Yeah, myself and my brother. But yeah, we've got a good crop coming through. I don't want to, George Cambosis obviously is looking to have a massive fight, which is great. And Tim Zoo's doing good things. He seems to be improving a lot with each fight. So he's doing good things, and will be, great to see him when he gets to the, fight on challenge for a world title, and to see how good he can be. Got a good crop of younger guys coming through. A young fighter called Liam Wilson's doing good things, and got a guy Liam Paro who is rated very highly, and hopefully get a world title opportunity this year. I've probably forgotten a lot, but there's a good crop of younger fighters coming through, which is very exciting. And that's what we need. We need guys over here to be involved in the big fights, but also winning world titles, and getting people in Australia talking about boxing and watching boxing, and trying to help the sport grow as much as we can.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I'm expanding my knowledge of Australian boxing. That's what I'm trying to do, trying to take in as much as I can from you. So yeah, thank you for that. In terms of before we wrap up, apart from boxing, because I know, of course, being a professional boxer, and you're pretty much eat, sleeping, and training boxing, but what other hobbies do you have outside of boxing? Do you have anything that's quite interesting, or things that you do in your downtime?
Nothing too interesting, really, mate. Sorry to make it a bit boring, but yeah, I mean, I've got a young daughter who's nearly 2. So when I'm not training or overseas, I was away for nearly 5 months of last year, obviously traveling to Vegas to fight, and then when we come home to Australia, we've got strict quarantine rules where you have to spend 2 weeks in a hotel before you can get out in the public.
It's a good excuse to abscond from parenting duties, though, isn't it?
Yes. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty hard being away for 5 months of the year. Obviously, with a young daughter, missed a fair chunk of her life, and growing up and her development, which was hard. But the sacrifices that you have to make, unfortunately, if you want to reach the top. So yeah, in my downtime, I live right on the beach here in Australia, which, for anyone who's been to Australia, it's an absolutely beautiful country, and our beaches are the best in the world. So yeah, I live right on the beach. So in my downtime, when I'm not at the gym, just like to spend time with my daughter and my fiance Georgia, and we get down to the beach every day, and try and get in the water as much as we can, and just chill out and enjoy life, and enjoy the beautiful part of the world which we live in.
That sounds great. That really does, because here at the moment it's 2 degrees, and it's raining, and it's horrible, and they're saying it might snow. So you're making me feel really jealous. But thank you. Might have to move to Australia at some point.
Yeah, when the borders up, when the borders open up, you have to get down here and experience Australia.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure, I'd love to see some boxing there, even see some cricket there. I'm open to anything. The Australian Open's happening soon.
Yeah.
It'll be great. I mean, Australia is just, it's amazing. It's definitely on my list to come and visit for sure. And we really look forward to hopefully seeing you fight here in the UK as well. You're saying hopefully,
I'd love that.
Hopefully, one day we see you here, and I'll definitely come to see that. Thank you very much for your time. Is there anything else you want to touch upon before we wrap up?
No, mate, it's been good to chat, and always happy to jump on, and as you said, hopefully I'll get over to the UK and fight over there sooner rather than later. Really love the fans over there and how passionate you guys are about boxing, which I wish it was like that in Australia, but unfortunately it's not at the minute. But we're working on it. Hopefully it'll be like that one day. But love how passionate you guys are, and would love to get over there and fight in front of a UK crowd.
No, I can't wait. And I'm sure with all the good work you're doing, as you said, pushing the sport in Australia, and once you get that world title around your belt, then go from there. And I'm sure there'll be more media attention, even more than there already is, and you'll be able to push it big time in Australia. So looking forward to that as well. Well, thank
Yeah.
you again so much for
Nah,
being on and taking time out of your busy day. As you said, you've got a young'un as well, so you know, I really do appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we'll catch up again soon. Thanks.
that'd be good, mate. No, my pleasure. Thanks for the chat.